United.
Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it? Joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Pretty good, you?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm happy now that the season's over. So, not good for the heart, United, at the end of the season. And we're delighted to be joined by two people that have turned into legends of the channel by this point. We're joined by, the other Henry and Gaz. So, boys, how you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. Cheers for having me, boys. Always nice to come on.
I think you need to apologise for calling him the other Henry. That's unfair.
Yeah, come on.
The other one.
The Henry.
Just going by age, Henry's is actually 30, so, we'll just go by age.
He's younger than I thought he was, actually, looking at him. So, yeah, I can understand that.
I'm 40. Disrespect my age. I'm your elder. Speak to me like it, God's sake.
Am I the oldest one on this video?
Yes.
Well, about 20 years, aren't you?
Oh, fucking hell. Oh, lads, what are you doing to me? Yeah. Honestly, I'm only about 12 in my brain, so, for fuck's sake.
I thought you remembered us winning the Champions League in '68.
I was there.
Exactly. But anyway, we're just going to do a season review. I think it's now that everything's done and finished, as happy as you are about it, I think it's best we just look over everything. So, yeah, we'll start from the start. It wasn't the best of ways to start the season, especially with the transfer window. So, Hennes, I'll come to you first. Looking back in hindsight, how much did it was a poor transfer window. We can't sugarcoat it. How much do you think that has held us back, especially given the context of all the other teams and how they did?
It holds us back every single year. Every single year, our transfer policy. It's not even a policy. It's just like a fuck it, see what happens sort of thing, which you can't really have at a football club. It's like, there's panic buys at the end of the window. You can't have that. And you look at Chelsea. I know it was a bit chaotic the way they spent money, but they just brought in quality players. And City, they brought in quality again. They always do. Liverpool was a bit of an exception because they didn't expect their centre-halves to get injured as they did, with Jordan Pickford carrying Van Dijk's leg off after that Merseyside derby. But other clubs are more organised than us. And yeah, it sets you back probably a couple of months straight away because not a proper pre-season and not quality players brought in, so we didn't have any depth. So instantly you're behind everyone else at the top. Yeah,
definitely. I'll come to you next then, Henry. Obviously, we saw that the Sancho deal didn't get put over the line. I don't think Solskjaer got any of his targets, really. Obviously, Bellingham came to the training ground and had a tour with Sir Alex. I think even Haaland in January was very heavily touted and he didn't get any of them. So were you fearful at the start of the season that it was going to go down sort of the Jose route where he wasn't given his targets and then he obviously didn't perform and he was sort of pounded out?
Yeah, in a way, I think so. I wasn't too displeased at the window, to be honest. I know a lot of people were frustrated, obviously, that we didn't get Sancho. I think, Sancho's someone who United fans are now, for whatever reason, emotionally attached to. Quite a few summers in a row, obviously linked to him, and now everyone seems to, think he's a United player, which he obviously isn't. And a lot of people, I think that was a reason why a lot of people sort of lashed out. And I think people on deadline day, particularly, were very emotional about us not getting Sancho, and perhaps we're a little bit overcritical of our window overall, because I think, looking back at it, it wasn't awful. Obviously, you say Ollie didn't get his targets, which I think you're right. I think the only player there who I think Ollie would have jumped at the opportunity to get was probably Cavani. I think he was up sort of Solskjaer's lane in that he's a great striker, proper number 9, which I think we've come to see that Ollie likes that mould of player. Obviously, Tellez was always going to be brought into. Well, I say was always going to be brought in to be a squad player, but I think his arrival perhaps pushed Luke Shaw to perform a lot better in this season. Obviously, he's been fantastic, Luke Shaw, and same with Van de Beek. I know a lot of people said, he's not played enough games and stuff like that. I think £30 million, he was never going to be a Paul Pogba. He was never going to start every game. I think he was brought in to be a squad player, and that's what he's ended up being. So overall, I think it wasn't a bad window, and we're yet to see, obviously, with Ahmad and Palestri, what happens going forward with those two. So I think, I don't think it was an awful window, but I can see where you're coming from. Solskjaer didn't get his targets. I think a lot of people, were worried about that.
I like your optimism. It's definitely a lot more than I've got towards a transfer window. But I'll come to you next, guys. Obviously, the best signing of the summer, I don't think it can be denied, was Edison Cavani in hindsight. But I think the fact that he came in on a free, on the it was deadline day that he came in, wasn't it? I think it's very obvious he was a panic buy when United realised they weren't going to get any of their targets. So do you think that's indicative of the way we do business now? Do you think, we're not an organised club? I think we made 3 signings in the last couple of days of the transfer window. Is that indicative of the way we're going to go forward, do you think?
Absolutely. I don't really think that Manchester United had any sort of necessary transfer strategy. I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a transfer strategy, and I think that personally he was let down by the people who were actually making the deals happen. I think Sancho was the one that obviously we all expected to happen right at the start of the window. I thought we'd get that one wrapped up early doors. Obviously, United dragged it out for so long and that didn't happen. And I actually have to disagree, I think, a little bit with something that Henry said then. I think you said that Edinson Cavani is probably the only one that's like a proper Solskjaer player. I don't think Solskjaer wanted Cavani. I do think, like you said, it was just a pure panic buy. Like, well, we've not got Sancho, which was the one I was promised. Like, we need something to strengthen us up top. And he's thought, well, Cavani's available. Let's go for him. It's obviously turned out to be the best signing. But compared to the other players we got, I mean, Van de Beek, obviously, I think he was one that probably was maybe on a list of players that we were interested in, but wasn't a player that Solskjaer was like, yeah, we need to get this guy in next season. I think that he just became available for a relatively decent price and we couldn't turn down the opportunity. Obviously, we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but maybe Edwin van der Sar had some part to play in that, where Donny needed to move on or wanted to move on and he got in contact with United. Who knows? As for Alex Telles, I think that could be argued as our best signing actually of last summer. Alex Telles was not brought in to play backup to Luke Shaw. Alex Telles was brought in because we'd all maybe given up hope a little bit with Luke Shaw. Not given up hope, but since he had that serious injury, obviously he was brilliant for a few months before that, and he showed us what he could do. But I think we all just sort of accepted the fact that Luke Shaw was never going to be that player that he was before that injury, and that he was always going to be an average sort of level player. And Telles was meant to be the man to take us to the next step. Obviously, the opposite happened. He came in, Luke Shaw absolutely playing out of his skin. And it was the signing of Alex Telles that did that. I think I actually feel a bit sorry for Alex Telles. He's not done a lot wrong. And seeing him saying today he can't wait to score his first goal for United. And, it's a shame he's not had the opportunity to do that as much as he thought he would. But you're not going to displace Luke Shaw in that team, mate. And I think that Ollie was let down. Yeah, I agree that Ollie was let down last summer, as many managers have been at Man United, maybe even including Sir Alex Ferguson in that, by the lack of transfer strategy. But this is why I think it's more of a problem than just money. It's more of a if the Glazers could say tomorrow, right, we're giving you 250 million, here you go. Yeah, but who are the people negotiating these deals? Because it seems to be that we had the money for Sancho last season and it didn't happen.
Well, I'll sort of brief that towards you then, Henners. Obviously, Ed Woodward is gone now. Well, he will be gone by the end of the year, but it's rumoured he could be already gone now. Do you think our transfer business will get better, or do you think bringing John Murtough in will just sort of be the same thing? Because we've seen he's a bit more business savvy than football savvy as well, haven't we?
Yeah, well, from what I've heard and what we've seen with Nicky Butt leaving and their relationship, I don't want to put words in people's mouths or anything, and because some people are saying it, some people aren't, but he does come across as a bit of a prick, John Murtough, and his relationship with other people at the club is not good. If your relationship with the kind of director of the academy is not good, you've got a bit of a problem. There's some sort of kind of friction within the club there. So I don't know. We'll find out. I think we'll find out this summer whether they're just puppets, both of those, whether they're just being, led on strings by the higher ups. And because if we don't have a good transfer window, it will come down to them. And maybe the Glazers have thought, okay, Woodward's taken a front for the last 7 or 8 years, so maybe it's someone else's turn. So you never know what's going to happen. But usually when you get a director of football, you think, okay, you're going to get someone that's at the highest quality. You're talking Monchi, who's at Sevilla, or Luis Campos, who's at Lille. You're thinking these kind of top people good at recruitment, bring in cheaper players really, but that are quality. So, but it just didn't happen. So I'm really not sure how this is going to go. The Sancho deal for me, if it's going to be done, it's got to be done before the Euros. Simple as that. I don't hold any high hopes of us doing deals after the Euros because it's a short space of time. You've got pre-season within weeks, within a couple of weeks. So you've got to sort the deals out beforehand so the players know where their future lies as well. And if that doesn't happen, I keep seeing United we'll know over the next few days, and then it gets a few days, and then we'll know again over the next few days. It can't keep happening. It's got to be done now. I don't understand. If the money is there, why is it being delayed? So what I think is that the Glazers don't want to spend that much money again. They don't. People think that they're going to go fork out 180 million in a pandemic.
Can I just interject? And look, I know that, I've seen so many United fans getting worked up on Twitter about transfers and everything, and this happens every summer. And I understand, it's worrying because you're basing it on past summers where we've gone through the whole of summer expecting transfers to be made, and then September comes along and we've got someone on deadline day and we've not signed who we want. So I understand that you're basing it on past experiences. But can everyone just calm down? It's the 3rd of June. It's the 3rd of June, and everyone's getting so over the top with newspaper stories and my mate heard this and my mate heard that. No one's ITK. None of us actually know what's going on at Manchester United. None of us know what transfers are getting done. These are multi-million-pound transfer deals. They do take a long time to get sorted. It's not just a case of, right, I've got the money, you've got them, you know what you want, there you go, bang, done. It takes a while, and when the press are coming out and saying, "Oh well, Liverpool are so," I know Liverpool have made a signing, Anthony and that Canate, but when the press are coming out saying, "Oh, Liverpool are so close to this and Liverpool are so close to that player," it's because it gets traction from Man United fans who are ready to be angry. They want to be angry, and I understand there are reasons to be angry. And maybe this summer is going to be another disappointment, but it's the 3rd of June. Let's all just calm down a little bit, yeah?
The problem is that the only issue I have with this is I don't expect the deal to be done now. I don't expect it to be done now. The problem is we've got a tournament with players who are not going to be able to negotiate during that kind of month and a half period.
Yeah,
it's
they
not
will.
They will. No, because they won't leave. They won't leave to go and do medical.
They don't have to. They don't sit in a boardroom and do negotiations themselves as well. They've got representatives and agents.
Exactly.
I'm aware of that, but it's one of those where the managers of the national teams see it as a distraction if they're involved in transfer negotiations, as has been said with Kane before. He said he wants to have a chat with the chairman now rather than, in that Neville thing. I want to talk to Levy sooner rather than later, so I know where I stand. The managers see it as a disruption in the national team. If someone's head is somewhere else, if Sancho's head is somewhere else during the Euros and he doesn't play as well, that reflects on Southgate, not anyone else.
I think it reflects on Sancho. I think it reflects badly on Sancho if that's the case. He's a professional footballer and he has these agents for a reason. These agents are here to represent him. These agents are there for this reason, to do deals on his behalf because he's not going to be able to. This happens with so many players in the past where they go to these international tournaments. I was listening to a podcast recently. I can't remember the specific player that it was. It might have been Paul Gascoigne. But it was a similar thing with him where he basically said to his agent, don't tell me during the tournament what's going on. Just give me a ring once it's done or once it's definitely off the table. And I'm going to focus on the football. And that's what these players have to do. You know what I mean? I think if a player is heavily influenced by transfer stories around him, I kind of find that reflects badly on the player, but that's just me.
But I get what you're saying, and I get that there shouldn't be complete panic now. But the problem is for United fans, Liverpool fans will be calm and relaxed. City fans will be calm and relaxed. Our history over the last since Ferguson left, our history of getting deals done early and getting negotiations done quickly, it's really not a good track record at all. And when we see our biggest rivals go and sign a world-class centre-half for £30 million because they negotiated it months ago.
World class?
Yeah, Konate.
No chance.
Okay,
Sorry.
Konate is going to be alongside Van Dijk next year. And I, having watched Leipzig this year, I personally believe he, at times he's been on level with Upamecano in terms of quality in games. So I see him as
where did Leipzig finish?
Third or
Did he finish third?
second? Third or second?
Fair enough if that's the case.
Yeah, they did.
Can't argue.
Yeah. So they're having players pinched off them, but Liverpool have got the deal done really early, and fair play to them because they needed a centre half and they went out and they got a centre half. So, United have got four positions that need filling. I'm not saying all be world class players. Centre half, CDM. We need a backup right back because Wan-Bissaka can't be trusted all season to go forwards and put up the numbers, and a right winger. So we've got four.
Henry, I feel like I'm being really argumentative with you today, and I'm not. But I'm not accepting Wan-Bissaka's slander either. We need a backup for Wan-Bissaka in case he gets injured. Like, I agree with that in that sense, but for me, Wan-Bissaka is numbers-wise and the eye test, actually watching him play, he's had one of the best seasons of a Man United right back in recent memory. Wan-Bissaka for the last 2 seasons, I think, has been totally solid. As a defensive player, absolutely world-class. Going forward, which is why everyone brings up, there's so many concerns with him going forward. Just look at the numbers. Has he got as many assists as Luke Shaw this season?
The problem I have with Wan-Bissaka isn't the fact that he, isn't necessarily as good as the other English fullbacks we got going forward. I don't have a problem with that. His positional play going the other way is awful. He gets dragged into centre half every single time a ball comes in. You watch him; he's out of position every single time. And Luke Shaw, the mistakes that he was making before this season, he stopped doing because he's got competition. He's got to up his game. Wan-Bissaka's competition is Brandon Williams. That's not competition. Brandon Williams is a championship level player, I think. I don't think he's Premier League level. So he's got to have competition alongside him to make him play better. Especially, I think, positionally, defensively, he's got a lot of work to do. Just watch him when a cross comes in. He gets dragged into, he's almost playing right centre half. It's like, what are you doing?
I think that Maguire being out sort of that had a big impact on that for me. I don't think maybe throughout the whole season, especially earlier in the season when Maguire was playing, I didn't really think it was too much of an issue personally.
But it's one of those where it needs to be strengthened. Another right back to back up or whatever. I don't care if it's Trippier for 10 million or whatever. Just a more experienced right back in case things aren't going so well. Because that's what the top sides have. We need to be looking at City if we want to be winning titles. We need to be looking at City. They've got Cancelo and Walker competing at right back. That's ridiculous for kind of positionally. That's ridiculous. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Fair enough. Well, we'll move back onto the season review. We've got a bit sidetracked there. So
all right.
It's all right. Henry Ennis likes to rant anyway. You've done us a favour. But I'll come to you, Henry. Obviously, the first couple of results weren't great. I think by the 1st of November, we played Arsenal and lost. We'd already lost 3 games by then. I think we actually had a negative record in the league. So you look back on it now and sort of we were for a long period of the season we were within touching distance of first place. We were actually in first place for a short while. So do you think that? Sorry, that's really loud. Do you think that those results have massively hindered us towards the end of the season, or do you think it's actually had the opposite effect and they've actually sort of kicked us into gear? Because after that, we went on a brilliant run, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know really. You obviously don't want to start like that in any season. I assume that's what you mean, the results at the start of the season rather than, the drop points over sort of January time. Yeah, I mean, obviously there was some terrible results at that time. I mean, obviously the Spurs is one that, jumps to mind. That was a disgrace of a performance, really. A lot of players in that game. I mean, that was a day when I thought, Paul Pogba's career at Manchester United was maybe done. There were certain performances from players in that game that were extremely disappointing, just sort of moping around, walking, coasting through the game, not looking like they cared. And there was a real worry there that, maybe Ollie had lost the players or something like that. Maybe these players had thrown another manager under the bus like we've seen them do before. But obviously that wasn't the case. We reacted well. Obviously, as you said, that Arsenal result. After that, we did go on a decent little run of form, and as you say, it was a good bit of fun, wasn't it? Around January time, Fulham, Burnley spring to mind as games that we really thought we might be back in a position to challenge for the top honours. Obviously, wasn't the case in the end. I don't think massive surprise to anyone really. It was a bit of a shame that we didn't kick on. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't know. I think maybe it did help us with the season. But obviously, next season we should aspire to not have those results early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll move on to the Champions League then around Christmas. Obviously, we ended up we needed 1 point out of 3 games, and we didn't get any of them, including the loss to Istanbul. Now I'll come to you guys. When obviously we lost that final game to Leipzig, went 3-0 down, in fact, was there anything in your mind that started to sway you towards thinking maybe Ollie isn't up for the job?
I think you need to set goals at the start of the season based on the team that you've got and then evaluate those goals at the end of the season. I think to beat Leipzig in the manner that we did and then to get the win against PSG in the manner that we did showed that this team has a lot of potential against those big sides. The Istanbul result was the one, wasn't it? That was the real shocker where it felt like, and I have got to blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for this one because it felt like it was a mentality issue with that one. It felt like the players just thought we'd turn up, get the win, and there we go. We're out of the Champions League group stage. And it felt like there was a lot of pressure on him for those 2 games against PSG and Leipzig. And, maybe Ollie's learned from that. I hope he's learned from that. But we do also need to say that was a very, very difficult group that we were put in the Champions League. At the start of this season, looking at the league table, I thought it was a top 4 fight. I thought looking at our squad, comparing it to other squads, particularly the fact that you had a few injuries in there as well. I thought Leicester had a better squad than us, genuinely. I thought that Chelsea had a miles better squad than us. So I think you need to give credit to Ollie for where he's finished in the league, but focusing on the Champions League, obviously really disappointing if you go out in the group stage. And then if you do go out in the group stage, the minimum really expectancy as a United fan is that you win the Europa League. And we got literally as far as you possibly could do without winning it. So don't really want to criticise too much. He's still not really experienced in the Champions League last season. But I just want to say that the caveat with everything I'm saying now, every excuse that I'm making for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for this season, none of those excuses are valid next season. Like, I want to make that clear. Like, at the start of last season, I had the idea that right now we need to solidify a top 4 place. That's the most important thing. Do better in the other competitions, and maybe get a trophy. And a trophy would be perfect. But we didn't get the trophy in the end. But we were comfortable in 2nd place. I thought very comfortable there throughout for a long time this season. The gap between us and Liverpool should have been bigger, just because we had nothing to play for at the end of the season, whereas they had everything to play for. But I think that all these excuses that I'm making for Ole next season, it's titles or bust. Like, he needs to win titles. There's absolutely no excuse. No finals, getting knocked out on penalties. No. Trophies next season. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe that's when we need to look and we need to say, right, this man can't do it for us. Let's bring in a man who can win us trophies. But if that is the case, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has still done a great job at United.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, speaking of trophies, we'll move on to the Carabao Cup Semi-Final. So that was the first real big game that we had this side of 2021. So, headers, obviously, we dropped out to Man City. We lost 2-0 at home, was it? It might have been 2-1, but we definitely conceded 2. I'll ask you the same question I asked Gaz. What were your thoughts on Ole at the time? Because it was another semi-final loss. We had a final lined up against Spurs, who we know now were very beatable. So, did that sway your mindset at all?
My mindset has always been I'm still I can't believe we're 3 years in and we're unsure of a manager. Like, that's baffling for me. It really is. I know Liverpool took 4 years before they won the Champions League and then the Premier League after, and it was like, United fans are now saying, okay, next year Solskjaer will win the Champions League, and it's like, but Liverpool had a plan, and you could see the way that they were playing. They got so close to the Premier League the year before. I think City got the record points total the year before, didn't they? So it was one of those where I'm still not sure on this manager, and I can't believe we're saying this after 3 years. I still don't know what kind of the tactics and the method is. In that semi-final, we were naive. We were naive against Leipzig. We're naive in the big games, and I don't understand it. We were naive against Villarreal. We could have gone. They were, they were tiring even in the first half, and we just kind of looked way off it, a bit clueless, and it was like, what's going on here? Like, we don't see these performances week in, week out, and then it comes to a big game and the players shit themselves. So I'm still unsure on a manager that we've had here for 3 years. And, so next year, right? We mentioned last year, we finished second, okay? So we finished 5 points above Liverpool in the end. Liverpool, in their eyes, had one of the worst seasons they've had, especially under Jurgen Klopp. They've had one of the worst seasons they've ever had, it was a dreadful season. They finished 5 points behind us. And I get the idea that you don't have anything to play for, etc. Next year's the measurement, because Chelsea have now got stability. Thomas Tuchel, a stable manager that's, by the way, proves the point. You don't need a 3-year project. You just need some good players and a good manager to win trophies. You need a good club.
Needed 4.
Would you say?
I just saying, like, when you were saying then, like, Liverpool had a plan and Liverpool fans had a plan, and they had it in their head to back Jurgen Klopp. I think they were Liverpool, and also it's not been 3 years that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's been here. It's been 2.5 years, and
okay,
I think we should actually say only 2 years. You've got to include only the whole season, surely. Like, that's got to be the scope for a manager's achievement, in my personal opinion. And I think there were Liverpool fans after 3 years of Klopp, when he had them finishing 8th, 4th and 4th. I do think there were Liverpool fans questioning what's going on here. I can't see where this club's going. The year later, and the year after that, and the year after that, look what happened. I think that we've got it in our heads that because a few managers have done it, and especially at Chelsea, obviously they brought Tuchel in, he won the Champions League, that's dead easy to happen at Man United. It's really not. And I think in long-term success, we've got to be looking to be a lot more stable than the likes of Chelsea, because, Chelsea have been a bit of a yo-yo team at times. When they won the Champions League last, didn't they finish like 6th or something? I don't want United to go back to that. You know what I mean?
I completely get what you're saying, and I completely get that you don't want to go back to having managers every 18 months. I completely understand that, and that's absolutely fair enough. But I still don't know what Manchester United are going to do week in, week out. I don't know how they're going to play. I don't know what tactics, whether we're going to go counter-attack. We're a moments team still. And that, for me, moments teams don't win titles.
Does that matter, though? They do that. They do, though. They do. I think they have over the years. I think United have always had, I think, the seasons where you would have said that have been defined by moments before United, especially under Ferguson. I think there's many times you could have said that. I don't think it really matters if you win in trophies. I couldn't care less if we're moments, if we're tactical, if we're.
There's no specific method of play. Like in the Villarreal game, okay. So in that final game, we've been playing counter attack the whole season, and then we come up against a low block, and it's like, oh, what do we do here? I still with Chelsea, you can see they've got a back three every game, wing backs who push on, wing backs who are good defensively. They've got 2 midfielders, one who's really good at passing, one who's really busy and kind of covers so much ground in Kante, and then you've got a quite clear kind of front three that attack, that are direct with their balls and behind. So you can see the way that they're going to play every week. I still don't know how Manchester United, what the tactical setup is. I don't know how we play. It seems just counter-attack and
you're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to know. We're not supposed to know. Like, I'm not being funny, but there's a reason that we're talking about football on a podcast, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's managing Man United. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to be able to decipher every single tactical nuance that your team is putting out there, because we're just fans. That's all we are.
I'm not saying I'm supposed to be Pep Guardiola, deciphering every single aspect of a team. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's no clear pattern of play, which pundits do pick out in teams.
Is that not a bit of a positive though? In a way, we've just finished second supposedly with no patterns of play.
Maybe it is, but next year has got to be a massive improvement. Like we've got to win something. It has to be.
Of course we have. Yeah, of course we have.
I'm just tired of the excuses that people give. You know, Mourinho, he got run out of town when we played like we had in the final. You know, in games like that, when we play like that, he got run out of town by the Man United fans. Like that's what I can't understand. He was hated, and he won a Europa League and won a League Cup. He was hated by the United fans. So,
not by me.
I know, but majority, you know, it's Mourinho this, Mourinho that. Mourinho is a trophy winner, and he won trophies at United. Without Mourinho being at United, we would have gone almost 10 years without a trophy. Well, not 10 years. Sorry, Van Gaal won one, didn't he? And then got sacked after. So one trophy in 10, which is crazy. So. You know, I always try to put my allegiance. I loved Solskjaer as a player. Obviously, I didn't get to see him as much, but he won us, you know, big trophies. He was a moments player essentially. You know, you brought him on in the last few minutes, and you know he caused chaos in defensive lines. So, I loved him as a player, but I tried to put my allegiance, you know, between players and managers, and which is what Chelsea fans got caught up in with Lampard. And when he got sacked, it was like, hold on a minute. Lampard was failing with that Chelsea side, a Chelsea side that they were all saying the players went up to it, they're not capable of doing it, and they went and won the Champions League. There's possibilities with this team. I'm just not sure, manager.
I feel like there's a lot of recency bias going on here. There's a lot of recency bias, and I think we need to think back to the start of the season. Nobody was saying that about that Chelsea team, mate. Nobody was saying that the players aren't up to it with that Chelsea team. Everyone was looking at that Chelsea team at the start of the season and thinking, these are title contenders. Absolutely no question about it, the signings that they made.
But it proved in the end not to be the players, but to be the manager, which is, you know, and even, you know, Tottenham got to a cup final and then they sacked the manager a week before, which was a stupid idea because I think they could have won that. Yeah, I think they could have won that. So we got to as many cup finals as Tottenham this year, and like that, that's just wow. And the excuse is made for the Champions League. I get that it was a tough group. I really do. I understand that, you know, if we would have gone out early in the group, I'd have been like, okay, the sides were just better than us. But we beat the big teams and we had to get 1 point from 3 games and we couldn't do it. But that's for me against a side that have just been battling relegation in Turkey as well. You know, this is not a side that's like a top tier side. They're not going to get European football. They're not good enough. So there's a real question for me, and I hope Solskjaer does well. I really do, but at the moment I struggle to see it because in big games we fold.
Maybe. I will say about your moments argument, I get, you know, sometimes we're reliant on moments, but how many points have we lost because of little moments? How many games have we completely dominated and lost because of a moment? You know, it goes both ways. You can't, the whole of football is just moments. There's only really your City and your Pep's Barcelona that, and maybe Liverpool when they're on proper form, but that will completely annihilate a team for 90 minutes and win 4-0 every week. There's not many teams that play better football than United do. Even Chelsea, like John put in the comments, when Tuchel took over, every game was 1-0, 2-1, 1-0. They weren't blowing teams out of the water. They were relying on moments as well. It's a normal thing in football.
Sorry, I was just saying that's how you win the Champions League. The Champions League isn't the league; it's different. That's the thing. That's, you know, we're all praising Chelsea, and of course we should do. You know, they've just gone and won, you know, the biggest trophy in football, really. But it is what it is. The Champions League. It's not a league season over the course of 38 games. It's all about moments and getting past teams in, you know, 2-legged cup ties and all about stuff like that. So I think, you know, let's calm down a little bit on Chelsea, because I respect, you know, they've won the Champions League, something we haven't touched in, you know, what's it now, 13 years. I completely get it, but, you know, it hasn't been a sustained season where they've absolutely destroyed teams like Pep.
But and that's fine, but it's But it's all ifs and buts with United every single year. You know, it's if we would have done this, or if we would have done that. Just fucking do it, for God's sake. It literally, you know, we have to look around us, okay, and think. I dislike. By the way, the Glazers are the big problem, not the manager. The Glazers, the ownership, are the big problem here. But we'll find out what happens over the next couple of months with them. We'll find out, because if they don't spend enough money, they'll get run out of town. I genuinely believe that. I think sponsorship deals will get pulled if they don't spend, get a marquee signing in. I think they're in big trouble. So forget about that for 1 second, though. And the managers, you know, they can turn around seasons. And again, United did not win anything this year. That's it. Simply put, we did not win anything this year. So, and Arsenal, a club who are in turmoil, have won a trophy more recently than us. Like, it's
yeah, but that's they're shite though. Like Arsenal are crap. Like, whose position would you rather be in? Arsenal, who had a trophy recently, or ours?
No, but they won an FA Cup last year, and they are shit. They are
considering we've not put 2 consecutive top 4 finishes together since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. I think the fact that we've finally done that, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's finally the man to do that, is more of an achievement than Arteta winning the FA Cup with Arsenal.
But if we are a club who say every year we say next year's our year, that's all I've heard. Next year's our year. You know, next year is make or break. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not looking good by Christmas, he will be gone. It's simple as that. But I'm tired of looking at this saying next year. Okay, I think Solskjaer spent, in terms of spending, has spent only less than Pep Guardiola when it comes to forking out on players. 276 million, I think he spent at United.
He hasn't spent that. Ole hasn't spent the money.
What you can say the owners have spent it.
That's the thing that we were saying at the beginning. They weren't his players, really, were they? We don't think they were. Anyway, I mean, we don't have them, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually think
the players.
Sorry, James.
The players he wanted to bring in. No, the players he's wanted to bring in. No, but that's what we're saying. They were the players he's wanted to bring in have been incredible signings for United. He's not missed.
The players he didn't want to bring in, Van der Beek, and I don't know. Van der Beek is the one I allude to every time. He didn't want to bring him in. Okay, that takes us down to just over 200 million. So if he spends another 100 million this year, he will have spent about almost 400 million, right? If he spends over 100 million, almost 400 million. He said, Lukaku, get rid of him. Don't want him, okay? He's crap. He's useless. Went to Serie A, won a title. Got rid of Ashley Young. Went to Serie A, won a title. So the Lukaku thing, I was baffled that we let him go for what he did, because I thought he was a phenomenal player. And we're now relying on a 34-year-old up front who is a poacher.
Better than Lukaku. Like, he's not better than Lukaku, Cavani. I absolutely understand. I understand the points that you're saying about Serie A, but Lukaku did not fit into this Manchester United side. I feel like this is recency bias again. Go back and watch Lukaku at United. Yeah, we can talk about the numbers and the goals that he put in, but he did not fit into the way Ole Gunnar Solskjaer plays. Can you imagine Romelu Lukaku doing what Cavani does in the game? The absolute movement you get from Edison Cavani. Bollocks. There's no way he could do that. He's just not as good as a player in that role. And I think that Solskjaer came in and straight away saw that. And I think one of the biggest bollock moves that he made was saying, right, see you later, Rom. You know, you need to move on. It's the best for you. It's the best for us.
I understand if we would have gone and brought a striker for the future, because I know you've said before, Gaz, you don't think Greenwood's the one at the moment, which is fair enough.
Not yet.
So, I'd have understood if we would have gone and brought a striker instead of buying another player. So instead of buying Van der Beek, go and put the money into a striker instead. Something that's gonna, it's gonna give you longevity, maybe for a few years while Greenwood molds, or a couple of years while Greenwood molds. Cavani, for me, he can play 30 games a season, probably. Out of what we usually have about 60 games, don't we, in a season, if you include all competitions. So you can probably play half of those. And if Greenwood's not a number 9, and Martial is being, there's talk of him leaving, or people saying he's not up to it up front anyway. Or why are we in this position? I just like we sold a top striker and we didn't replace him.
I think we sold him after the window had shut as well. If I'm not wrong in that, after our window had shut, I think
how naive is that?
I liked Lukaku. I know I'm in a minority with that. I really liked him, and I
did as well.
And I think his link up was quite underrated and stuff like that. He obviously didn't offer the movement that Cavani did, and I adore Edinson Cavani as well. But I wouldn't mind having both of them, to be honest. Lukaku maybe rotating him a bit. I don't know if that would have been realistic, but I still think Lukaku. If Ollie didn't want him, fair enough, but I still think he could have played a role in that system. I think his numbers a lot better than Martial. I think that's without saying.
Yeah, I agree. His numbers in Serie A and for Belgium as well. So the Serie A argument is out the window because his numbers for Belgium.
He banged him in for us as well. So
his numbers in a national side are absolutely phenomenal. So and they play 2 different systems. They don't play specifically around him. You've got players like Mertens and De Bruyne and Hazard and Tielemans. You got those players around him, and he puts in phenomenal numbers. So I think the only side that he's gained so much criticism from playing in was at United. That's the only team I can think. Every other team loved him. The only team that didn't like him was United. And it's like, but then he goes and it's like, yeah, I'll just go and do it somewhere else. And they've won I think it's the biggest points total in the last 4 years. So in Serie A, which is pretty good for a side that have got supposedly got a bunch of journeymen in them. So
what I will say about Lukaku, the international argument, I get he's a good goal scorer for Belgium, but 75% of Belgium's games are against people like Belarus and Andorra in qualifiers. So Ronaldo scored like 100 goals for his country, and like 75% of them have been against teams ranked lower than 50.
Belgium are ranked number 1 in the world, not from beating bum teams. They're ranked there because they beat teams like us.
No, actually, they're number 1 in the world because they keep beating bum teams. This is the crap. The way that they do these rankings, the FIFA rankings, it is to do with beating bum teams. That's exactly why they're number 1 in the world. England, I think England consistently, when I was growing up, were in the top 3 in the world. Were England ever really in the top 3 in the world? Probably not.
But Belgium, as a side, have beaten big teams in the last few years, and they, I
they've
get
not reached the final.
And
Belgium
are, yeah, exactly. Belgium are a big team, and they consistently bottle it. Like, this Belgium side aren't some dark horse anymore. Like, maybe in 2010, people would refer to them as a dark horse. Not anymore. They're just a top quality team with top quality players who have consistently underperformed.
I don't see it as consistently underperforming. I don't see losing to a France or someone in the semi-final as underperforming. England, if we get out of the group stage first, we'll play France or Portugal probably in the next round.
Euro 2016, they lost to Wales.
So
Carl Robson-Kanu.
What
for a team with Kevin De Bruyne, Hazard, Lukaku, Courtois? That's disgraceful.
They lost one game and they lost one game to Wales, and now they're the worst team in the world. I don't understand that.
Well, that's what we're saying. They're a very good team.
We lost to Croatia, just drew to Armenia at home. Croatia just drew to Armenia at home, and we lost to them. They beat Cyprus 1-0. They scraped against Cyprus in the 90th minute, and we lost them in a semi-final. So that argument for me is one-off games. Those results can happen, as has been proven with us, with England and with France drawing at home to Ukraine and stuff. That can happen. Doesn't mean France aren't the best team in the world, because they are. So,
we're getting sidetracked anyway.
Yeah,
the arguments about Lukaku and he's scoring against League One opposition for international games, and also you look after he's left, we are the second highest scorers in the league. It's not like we've missed him this year.
I know, but again, it's defensively set pieces. Am I the only one who looks at set pieces in our team and goes, okay, you can see a consistent pattern here. Who's going to sort it? And we shipped from a set piece in the final as well. I mean, you can argue with Maguire or not, we were still conceding set pieces with Maguire. And it's like, who on earth is looking at this in the coaching setup? Are they just ignoring it? Are they just looking at it going, be all right? They'll just head the ball away, you know, they'll whack the ball in, we'll hope and head it away. There's little things that should be tweaked that haven't been. And again, I'm not saying this will not be tweaked next year, but next year, the next 4 months, the first 4 months of the season for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are the biggest, I believe, in his managerial career. Because if he fails at United, I don't know who's going to take him on. No top club, if he fails at United, no top club will take him on. I genuinely don't believe that, because they look at his resume and think, failed at Cardiff, did okay at Mulder, failed at United, no thanks. So I think he'll get like a championship or a lower Premier League job, maximum. So it's big for him and big for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does fail next season, then yeah, but like as we keep saying that it's the make or break season for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as if that's anything to do with what's happened over the last 2 years. For me, it's got nothing to do with that, really. The third season was always going to be the make or break season, no matter what. It is for any United manager, especially if they've not been massively successful in those first 2 years. I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been averagely successful in those 2 years at Manchester United, and consecutive top 4 finishes is the minimum that we have at Man United. That's the minimum that we want to keep a manager. So I think that I'd agree with everything that you're saying. If he does fail next season, he will struggle.
I just want to allude to one quick thing before we move on. In that final, the Villarreal final, I don't have a problem with drawing a game if you have 20 shots or whatever, you know, and did we have 2 shots on target the whole game? I don't know. Something like that anyway. I don't have a problem with peppering a goal and things just don't go out, don't work for you. Sometimes that happens. But the performance was poor. It was so poor. We were getting, you know, and everyone moans about our bench, you know, why would Ole Gunnar Solskjaer bring on players that are not good enough, etc. Unai Emery brought on Mario Gaspar, who's a 31-year-old right back. He made 5 changes. Out of those 5 changes, I probably could name one that would maybe get on our bench, and that was Alcacer. Other than the others wouldn't get anywhere near our bench. So the argument that Solskjaer wasn't making changes because the bench isn't good enough, our bench was better than theirs. You had Van der Beek, you had Mata, you know. I know you didn't want to bring on Ahmad because he's too young, etc. But you had top players on the bench. And it took him 100 minutes to use one of them, and he brought on a defensive midfielder for a right winger. And it's like, these little decisions, they were infuriating during the game.
But the players on the bench, they weren't better than the ones on the pitch, were they? You look on the pitch and, you know, the players that started, you think were the ones who were going to make the difference. You know, you see Fernandes, Cavani, you see, you know, Paul Pogba even. We've seen him at times, you know, pop up. Maybe not as much as we'd like, but with some big moments, and he's got that, you know, thing in him to change a game. But when you look to that bench, which substitutions, for example, would you have liked to have seen him make? Because for me, I don't know what he should have done. I don't really think.
Are we looking at players and thinking they have unlimited energy in a game?
Yeah, that's exactly why the defensive midfielder that you just criticised for coming on came on, because he's the player who has the most energy. I think the only player that you could have brought on in that situation, apart from Fred, is someone like Dan James. And I sort of agree. Looking back at it, at the time, I was thinking you can't take any of these boys off, because as we talk about United being a moments team, all the players that we have are capable of these moments. But everyone could see that Marcus was struggling out there. I just feel so sorry, though, for Ollie almost in that situation, because I feel like I rate Marcus Rashford just as highly as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does. I think that he's not going to be a world-class player. I think Marcus Rashford is a world-class footballer right now who's struggling massively by being overplayed and being played through injuries. I think in that game, maybe he was the one to take off, but I totally understand where Ollie was coming from, not taking him off.
But it's one of those where you're playing against a low block, right? It was still a low block 120 minutes in, as it was at the start of the game, because Villarreal thought we'll play deep and we'll counter attack, which is what they did. You've got, I know people don't like him because he's old. You've got Mata, who is in the Premier League in the last 5 or 6 years, has been one of the best players at breaking a low block with a killer pass.
Come on, Mata in a European final to play that many. You haven't played all season. I never would have brought Mata. I'm not
saying play from the start. I'm saying in the last few minutes when you've got a chance to play a killer pass, instead of bring on Fred for McTominay and bring on Mata for Greenwood. I get the argument the bench wasn't good enough. Fine, the bench is not good enough. But you want energy in an attacking lineup. Marcus Rashford he was awful in that. He's been poor for months. I know people won't say it because he's been getting goals and assists, and that is the measurement for everyone now. He can go through a game and get him behind the back line on the 80th minute, and all of a sudden it's been a fantastic game. His performances have not been up to scratch for months. So I think he delayed it too much. And I think that if we would have won it, then I still don't think the performance was good enough. Personally, I still don't see it. By the way, a team that had less rest than us as well. I don't know why people aren't alluding to that, because they literally played their full team against Real Madrid because they needed to win that game. We played basically a reserve side against Wolves. So the players that we had in that team had, I think it was 4 more days rest than Villarreal. And we still look more tired than them come 110 minutes.
Yeah, but come 30 minutes, they looked knackered. I think it was poor that we didn't capitalise on it. But when they brought all 5 substitutes on, they're going to get that little bit of a lift. I think that's
the energy levels were low for a side that have had almost a week's rest. It just all doesn't add up to me. It all doesn't add. And Rashford after the game saying, I'll go in the changing room. 5, 6 of those players are injured in there. Oh, that's good on the manager, isn't it? That's good. That's a great look for Solskjaer. He knows these players are supposedly injured and he's playing them anyway. Greenwood just pulled out of the Euro squad because he's injured, because he's been managing an injury over the last few months. Am I the only one who literally sees this? I don't know. Am I the only one who sees? You can't play injured players. They don't play well.
For the sake of one game, given that you're going to have a long rest after the Euros, would it not make sense to play these players who are significantly better than the options behind them, even if they are carrying injuries? Because we don't play those second players. We don't even score a goal. We don't play those injured players.
The Fulham game as well. I know Gaz went there, and everyone wants to see a good side in the Premier League game or whatever. But it's a dead rubber. If these players are injured, rest them.
No, but I get what you're saying, but in the same vein, you've got to keep them match fit. You can't just stop playing them and then you have to pop in a final and just switch it on.
But not 90. Rotate.
I actually really do agree with Hennes. Sorry, this is my biggest criticism of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that he is overplaying these kids and he is over relying on these young players and over relying on players who are injured, rushing players back from injury as well. I don't think there were any mind games before the Europa League final about Harry Maguire, for example. I think genuinely Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was still weighing up the possibility of starting Harry Maguire, which everyone knew. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, more than anyone, was never going to happen. He's probably not going to play the group stage at the Euros. So it's the fact that he was even considering it really worries me when you look at, as you mentioned, Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, who I'm alluding to here. Marcus Rashford, I love him so much, and I fear that Ollie is ruining him in a way. He's the best thing for him in one way, because he wants to build a team around him almost and make him the star boy, which he is capable of being. But he is ruining him as well. And we could have a Wayne Rooney situation here, and people will be like, I did this on my show the other day, comparing Marcus Rashford to Wayne Rooney. That can only be a positive thing. Well, I think there are negative things around that. Wayne Rooney did play too much football when he was too young. He was brilliant at the start of his career, excellent, and he was excellent. He was one of the best players I've ever seen at United, but did not reach his potential. I think both of those things can be true. And we saw towards the latter stages of his career, but not too late, he dropped off massively. Marcus Rashford, I fear, is going to do the exact same thing, but in a more drastic way because of these injuries.
If he doesn't get so he's playing the Euros, right, this summer. Rashford, he's going to play the Euros. I don't know whether he'll play every game. Personally,
he won't
start him. I wouldn't start him because he's literally come out and said he's injured. He's come out and said in an interview he's injured. Don't play him. Just boot him out of the squad. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. We got Foden. We got Grealish. You got players that can cover in that position. You got players that are playing better than him. Drop him out. Bring in Watkins or Lingard, who are playing better in the first place. Bring them in. Drop him out. Let him have this operation he needs to have. If he has the start of the season off, so be it. You've still got Martial, etc. His career will be done by the time he's 26. If he keeps doing this, his career will be done. Apparently, he's got a floating bit of bone in his ankle from a year ago. His career will be done. And we'll all look at it and think, oh, it's such a shame. But it's poor. It's almost mismanagement of the player. And, I just seen a comment there. Kante was injured in the Champions League. That's fine. But you know what Thomas Tuchel did a week before? He said in the press conference, in the Villa game, Kante didn't play, which was a big game because if they'd lost and Leicester would have won, they wouldn't have got Champions League. So, and he said in an interview, we're not playing him because we're managing an injury. I don't think I've ever heard Solskjaer come out in an interview and say, oh yeah, he's bringing on Rashford for 10 minutes at the end of dead rubbers. It's just like, he needs to. I know he's learning on the job, but he needs to learn that soon because his players they'll let him down because they'll be injured. And then
I will say that I completely agree with the fact that Solskjaer throughout the season hasn't handled injuries well. I think we look at the Sociedad second leg when we're 4-0 up. There's no need to play any of those players really, but in the biggest game of his career, I can completely understand why he's taking those risks.
I understand that. But if we wouldn't have played them so much in the weeks before,
in
the Fulham game as well, I get that you've got fans there and it's fantastic, but it doesn't really matter that much if you lose the game. It really doesn't. Like, it's not a huge deal.
To be fair, actually, to back your point up, sorry to interrupt, but to back your point up, actually, do you remember the squad? I was at Old Trafford actually the day Palace at home in 2017. Before Stockholm, it was Harrop, Demi Mitchell. I don't know who else. I think Fossey meant to start the game. It was quite different, to be honest. To be fair, I guess Wolves, Ollie did something a bit similar, but just an interesting comparison to be made.
I get that, and we're all saying don't play the starting side against Wolves. Just don't do it. A stupid idea. It's not worth doing it. But in the dead rubbers that we've been mentioning, all of those games they take a toll out of the players. They really do. If you're playing 50 games a season, Rashford, I don't know how many games he's missed. What, like 2? Out of probably about 55, right? So he's probably played upwards of 50 games injured with not just a back injury, but an ankle injury. The back injury, he was doing an interview with Ryan Giggs last year. He couldn't sit down. He could not sit down in an interview because his back it's fucked. So it's an accumulation. I know people say, "Oh, it's odd game," it doesn't matter. It does matter because it's an accumulation. 90 minutes is a lot for a player to go through. They run miles in a game. It's a lot for a player to go through.
I've heard there's a few people who struggle to sit down after meeting Ryan Giggs.
Yeah,
well, that brings us to the end of the podcast.
Say that. That wasn't me. Who said that?
Oh,
right.
Jesus.
We're running out of time, so we need to wrap it up. So I'll say, moving forward, we all have to decide on targets we are setting for the club next season in order for it to be a successful season. Because I think this season was successful. A one-off game that we lost, didn't win us a trophy, but in general scheme of things, it was a successful season. But this exact same season again next year isn't a successful season. So, Hannah, start us off. What's your successful season next year? Be realistic as well.
I'm not going to say we'll do the quadruple because I'm not going to say that. No, I think a realistic season is competing for the title, not 12 points off and going, it's okay, City, you're fine. You just run away with it. It's okay. Not that. Competing for the title within 5 points of the title. I'd like it to come down to the last day of the season. That's okay. That and also a trophy that is not the fucking Carabao Cup. Because if we win the Carabao Cup and get close to City, it'll all be, oh, that's fine. Good Ollie. Well done, mate. Well done. No, I'm not having that. It's got to be a big trophy, an FA Cup, a European, or the Premier League. It has to be one of the three. If we're not looking close by Christmas, gone. Sorry, I've got to say it. If we're fourth in at Christmas and we're out of the Champions League, goodbye. Good night, Vienna. Off you go.
I feel like we've disagreed on on so many things today, Ennis. But like at the end of the day, I feel like we're all in agreement on that. Like Henry, I totally agree with what you said there.
Different paths to the same objective.
Exactly. Yeah, different paths to the same objective. We all want to see Man United be successful, and I totally agree. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's, if we're way off at Christmas, see you later, mate. Let's get someone else in, and maybe we're going to have to start the project all from the beginning again. But I hope we don't do that. I hope we don't abandon parts of this project that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's built. I hope we bring in someone who's willing to build on what Solskjaer's done if he fails next season. But I totally agree with you. I think that next season's Premier League might be a weird one in terms of the fact that we're actually going to have 4 teams competing for the title for quite a long time in the season. And I kind of hope that's the case just for a bit more excitement. We might not finish second again, but I agree with what you say. It's got to be within 5 points of the title. If we finish 4th and we're 5 points off top 4, that's not an issue for me. That's okay. We're still in the title challenge, but you've got to have a trophy alongside it. If that's the FA Cup, sure, that'll do. But you also need, and I mean need, to get out of the Champions League group stage. Oh my God, there is no excuse for not getting out the Champions League group stage this time. You won't get a tougher group than you got through last year, and we were a point away from doing it. So this year, we've got to get through it. And other than that, yeah, that's what I say.
Quarters?
Yeah, quarters. Yeah, quarters. But I mean, it all depends. It all depends on the teams you get, doesn't it? If in the round of 16, you know, I was about to just like name the European champions then, but let's face it, we probably expect to beat Chelsea on our day over 2 legs. So I guess we should expect to get to the quarters, if anything. But for me, it's minimum win a trophy, win the FA Cup, within 5 points of the league, out of the Champions League group stage, and I'm happy with that.
But just ever so quickly, one little point. If he doesn't get back this summer, he will be gone by Christmas.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There's no way he's winning anything with this squad alone. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I'll finish up with you, Henry. Obviously, I'll phrase it a bit different to you because I know we're both sort of fans of Football Manager. So I'll phrase it to you like that. You get your objectives at the start of every season. Of each competition, there's a minimum expectation. So I want you to go through each competition we'll be in next year and give us where you expect us to be at a minimum.
How do they word it on Football Manager? Is it mount a title challenge or something like that? I think they word it in some sort of way like that. So something along those lines for the league. Obviously, as you know, the boys have said already, Champions League, I'd probably say minimum quarterfinal, but obviously it's all context dependent. Everything's context dependent, really, isn't it? Apart from the league, which you can sort of just lay out in front of you. So yeah, quarters in the Champions League, FA Cup. Win it, hopefully. Win it. It would be nice. It's been a while since we won the FA Cup. Was it 5 years now since we won it under LVG? So I'd go with that. Carabao Cup. What is it? How do they word that on Football Manager? Irrelevant or something like that?
Yeah, not required.
Not required. That's it. Not required. So we go with that with Carabao. What am I missing? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah,
Champions League.
Champions League. Yeah. Quarters.
So
just say quarters.
Quarters.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, we'll change the targets when we got knocked out in the group stage to win the Europa League. And
can we just say one little thing at the end of this? Isn't it funny how the standards of Manchester United in 10 years have gone down the toilet? That's all I can say. Under Ferguson, it was an expectation that you win a Premier League. And I'm not saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should win the Premier League. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the last 10 years have been hell.
We did somewhat expect it though, didn't we? When Fergie left, we knew there'd be a bit of turbulence.
But no, we expected a 5-year transition at least. I understand that, but it's going to be by the end of next season. It's going to be almost 10.
Well, we might win the
But
league next season.
this happens to teams. This happens to
does.
every team. Look at Arsenal. Look at where Liverpool were, and then 2011 they were signing Jay Spearing and getting really happy about it.
No, I get that.
It
I get
happens
that.
to teams.
But Liverpool, didn't they win the Champions League in 2006?
2005, yeah.
2005, sorry.
Yeah,
And then
go forward 10 years. The front line was Balotelli and Lambert. Like it happens to teams.
Yeah, but there should be United again. I know people don't like me doing this. The revenue thing. I know people don't like me doing it because it's not a measurement of HB, etc., etc. United, according to financials, are top 3 in the world. According to financials, top 3 in the world. And I think aiming higher than a Europa League title is a little bit, I don't think it's very far-fetched for a club of the size of United. I guess context is important with the owners and stuff, but I don't think that's a huge ask. And we've kind of accepted Liverpool and City winning Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues over the last few years. And, we need to be up there next season. Win or bust.
We will soon.
We will.
I genuinely believe we will. We've not got any. We've not got this divine right to success. No team has. We've got to earn this success, but we will. We're like you said, we're the 3rd biggest club in the world financially. Success will come. It's taken us a long time to get it right, but we will get it right.
Also, Reds, don't listen to winners. The last 10 years have not been hell. It's bloody great being a Man United fan. It's bloody great. And we're one of the best teams to watch, I think, at times last season. If you look at Manchester United's best goals of last season, you will have a joy watching that. United were brilliant last season. And, this is people say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't have a style of football. Just look at some of the goals we've started scoring. They've been absolutely beautiful. And I have enjoyed watching Manchester United so much more these last 2 years than I have at any point since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Going week in, week out under Van Gaal and Mourinho made me want to fucking kill myself. Oh my God, that was depressing. Genuinely.
The football's been good, but the football's been great. And United can make me happy and they can make me sad, which is one thing that you'll always have with a football club. Any football club can do that. So, and it doesn't mean because I'm disappointed, it doesn't mean I support them any less than I ever have.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Because I'm disappointed probably means that I support them more because I'm more annoyed. My frustration is because I love the club, but the last few months, year with big picture and the Super League and wowzer for a lot of clubs, but especially because of these pesky American fuckheads. Because
I personally just think you're a miserable bastard.
Yeah, man, Glazer's in.
Fuck.
No.
Someone clip that.
Yeah, get it clipped.
Again, context
Right.
is important. Right.
We'll draw a line under there before
Yeah.
Hennes starts an argument with his wall. But
It is annoying me a little bit. No, I'm joking.
Magnolia.
he was moaning about his room before you two joined, saying it's too empty.
It's giving me a really awkward look, this wall. I'm not quite.
But anyway,
no one likes
massive thank
Magnolia.
you.
You want to go, son? No, that's right.
We'll end it there anyway. Shut up, Hennes, for 1 minute. The 3 of you, massive thank you for joining me. It's been brilliant to have you on. Really enjoyed it. And massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in and joined us in the comments, especially John. You seem to be relentlessly contributing. But yeah, we're yeah. But yeah, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully have some more regular content for you soon. Now that university is all finished. But yeah, until next time, we'll see you later.
Manchester United are the champions of Europe again.